Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. I'm going to read a poem by Francis Brabazon from his great book, The Word at World's End. This poem is not online. I wanted to post it on the internet. It's not online anywhere that I can find. So I'm just going to record it now. It's a poem toward the end of the book called After the Flood, in which Francis writes of the time after the destruction. So you'll understand then why I'm reading it now during our great pandemic. So I'll just begin. Adjust the light a bit. After the flood. After the flood of our desolation, after the twisted steel and the broken concrete, after the flood of grace of God-man's word in our hearts and the face of the earth had been washed clean of stain and monuments. Those of us who remained after the fall of the cities and survived the wandering came together in silence in an open place, in a new morning, empty but for the sun, newly risen out of the ocean. And one found voice for all of us. We have to admit, God, that you did the right thing. We had become loused up. A man's word had the stink but not the weight of his turd. We had forgotten, every son of a bitch of us, how to sing. What is a man until he has been drowned and has risen again from the flood of you, with a river of song in his mouth, has found his own shape in the image of the blood of you? In everything we had been wrong. We did not believe that God-man was your face, that in his word was the total grace, already present in the creation song. We had lost the gift of high decision. We conceived that tomorrow was merely today's revision. Yet we were troubled at times when we saw the new moon, when we heard certain old songs. At times our pain was like the trembling drops of rain. But when we tried to praise you, our words were as foolish as drunken trumpets. We could not make one small song in the shape of your beauty. The days sprawled and heaved like swollen seas against rocks. They grieved like superannuated clocks. They were ashamed as paternal cocks, lust spent and lust deceived. Alarmed as power bosses who have achieved those progresses which the bed mocks. Time tyrannized the days, and you, God, suffered the chain and the iron beak, total man pain. Suffered and synchronized man time and God time again, by men to be realized. The words of your word, your gift to men, the words that are a flame in the mouth to illumine your name, that name which the stars were singing as we, your sons, danced past them on our way to man's state. Our cities were hills that drew no rain, from which no virtue flowed out over the earth. sustaining structure and flowering that mirth which makes eyes dance across a singing plain. Our cities were coagulated again, the good life thrown on a garbage dump, thin love hung up on nerves like bits of tin in winds of belly laughs of the insane. Our cities were maps with squares marked treasure, for which one dug and found a rotten bone, dialed wrong numbers on the telephone, markets where one shopped for packaged pleasure, back home unwrapped it and found only pain, untouched by hand and wrapped in cellophane. Your creation song sang the stars into praises and earth into place for man singing. But our speech ooze had spread a film over the earth, and only the flood of our cry, the flood of your word, could make it clean again. We sounded seas, drilled rock, stared, snow wastes where nothing moved but the wind. We gave ear to progress prophecies, but private plenty reared new public squalor. Fear, chasing the blood through the ventricles of the heart, became the best attended wagered sport. And the great dream, to journey to a star, to find ourselves already there, still forever in a state of war. Dreams, horizons, a new sun in black space. Tomorrow, always tomorrow. But the tomorrow of anger is ash, and the tomorrow of hatred is death. The days were hummings by a boy with a stick along a sultry summer corrugated iron fence, orchestrally inflated with episodal matter suave and slick. We lived in the end days, sick, mauled by mathematics, irritated by ever-growing burdens that were rated gain, the gain from turning living bread to brick. We knew it was all a dirty trick, played on us by Big Fist and those who licked his shoes. So, but his number one sidekick was our unlove. We for ourselves baited the rat traps of cities and arranged for our souls to be crated, leaving fair earth for the men she long had waited. We were men with broken feet on betrayed journeys, alone in companies under a cold glass sky, wordless like that of beasts was our cry, into the last days of the great heart freeze. Always alone, always in companies. Through narrow ravines on a high plateau where vultures did not fly, and even scorpions found dis-ease. Ever we went on, fattening our miseries, on cropped concrete and dim remembrances of the sun and the breeze, billowing tall grass, longing to die. At last we began to understand. The seas below us on the plains were weeping for our cry, were your weeping for our cry. And world's end was suddenly lit by your compassionate eye. And we heard in our hearts the bursting of your infinite word, the same primal word which stirred in the womb of the great dark, and one spark of which issued as all the blazing suns in which were hidden earth and the seed of men, the to be perfect ones. And the wind of your word dried up the flood you had wept, leaving clean the face of the earth, of the monuments of our boasts reared on cruel labor. We have come down, God, from the separation into this silent morning, to begin a new day in the sun, to sing a new song to you, to continue the earth for our children. Dear Baba.